Hi guys, so the next part of this video outside of just what that day of eating looked like is essentially I wanted to talk about what are some of those things that people typically want to know, your frequently asked questions. Hello, Bubba. Frequently asked questions when it comes to cutting, right, and dieting. So dieting is done lots of different ways. I'm going to give you what I like to do as a coach, as well as what I am doing for myself. So typically what I like to do for people, and this is kind of one of those frequently asked questions, is why I'm gonna get there. Just give me a second, okay? Roundabout way of getting there. The question is, how many calories do I initially cut, okay? That is going to depend on a lot of different things. That's always also an answer, it depends. But essentially when we're looking at cutting calories, we want to make sure that it's enough of a deficit that your body knows that it's a deficit, okay? Typically you're gonna see somewhere between like a 300 to 500 calorie cut. A 15% reduction in calories is like the, I would say, good place to start, and that's gonna be on the lower end, but right, 15% is going to look different depending on how many total calories you were eating prior to that. So one of the mistakes I see happen when people are wanting to go into a dieting phase is that they haven't been doing any kind of tracking prior to that, and they maybe weren't eating enough to begin with. So then you're like, oh, I'm gonna just start eating 1,700 calories. Maybe that'll work. But if you were eating maybe 1,800 calories before that, your body may not really recognize that as a deficit, because maintenance is in a range. So your maintenance calories, meaning the calories where your body will maintain weight, is all based on, you know, what you've been doing currently, right? Our bodies are adaptive, and so our bodies will adapt to whatever we are doing. Eventually, you may lose weight for a little bit and then you've plateaued. Typically that's because your body has adapted to those calories. So for me, I was eating somewhere in the 2,400 to 2,600 calorie range up until the end of January. I can eat a lot of calories. I am 5'2", and yes, I'm eating that much. So when I cut to around 2,000 calories. I'm not giving my specific macros or anything like that, because those are my numbers and not yours. So don't ever just do whatever somebody else is doing. So to decide how many calories to cut can be something as simple as start with a 15% reduction in total calories, or look at somewhere between a 300 to 500 cut. That should come mostly from carbohydrates and some from fats. We typically don't want to take from protein because we want to maintain as much muscle mass as we can. We don't want to be reducing the protein we're eating. It also promotes satiety. So that's a good thing to keep up, right? Satiety is feeling full. We want to stay feeling full when our calories are coming down. My husband's home, so my dogs are going nuts. So we're gonna pause for a second because they're gonna be panicked and it's gonna be loud. Quimby's in a cone because her leg has a cut on it, and that is Hunter being ridiculous. Okay, we're back. My dogs get super excited whenever my husband comes home, and Hunter cries like a baby, which is fine. It's adorable. What else? I'm like, my hair be done. Okay, so again, that answers that first question of like, how many calories should I cut? I think the next question I want to address is, when do I make the next cut in calories? And some people like to do this sooner, but what I like to do as a coach is, if we are seeing progress in the scale or in measurements, or maybe pants fitting better, shorts fitting better, things like that, I'm not going to move calories. I'm not going to move macros. I'm not going to come down. Reason being is, if we are seeing progress, we're not going to, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? So I am not a fan of moving macros unless we need to. Reason being is, a lot of people don't do well with dieting because they cut too quickly, or they cut and then they cut again because they don't think progress is fast enough, and then their biofeedback sucks. And what I mean by biofeedback is looking at your hunger cues and your ability to get a good night's sleep. If your hair is getting brittle or not growing, or your nails are not growing and they're breaking, those are all negative signs for biofeedback. You shouldn't be starving all the time. Will there be some hunger in a cut? Yes, but you shouldn't be starving. If your stress is going through the roof because all you're thinking about is food, if your energy is low, you have brain fog, things like that, we don't want that to happen. And so if we keep calories as high as possible for as long as possible, we are going to delay that happening. So in terms of when I make a calorie cut or macro adjustment, typically it is when we have stalled for at least 2 weeks with like no outside factors coming into play. And what I mean by that is, let's say you are at 2,000 calories. That's like your deficit calories, right? But over the weekend, maybe you started your cycle, or you're about to start your cycle. So we see the scale trend up for a couple days before you get it. Or maybe you decide not to track one night and you have 3 margaritas and a big old thing of queso and chips and some Mexican food that's a lot of sodium. I'm speaking from experience because your girl can't do a lot of Mexican food. When I'm cutting, the sodium just wrecks me in terms of like the scale, bloating, all that. So that's something that would happen that maybe is going to impact what the scale is doing or what your measurements are doing. So that would be an outlying factor. Now, let's say everything looks great. You tracked your macros and you're within ranges every single day. You hit your step goals or pretty close to it every single day, got our workouts in. We're sleeping 7 to 9 hours a night. Stress is great, right? Like as in we're not really having a lot of stress. Ideal situation, 2 weeks of like solid consistency, and then the scale is still not moving, measurements are not moving, then I would say, okay, let's maybe make an adjustment. Typically that first adjustment after the bigger adjustment of like 300 to 500 calories, I'm not going to cut another 300 to 500 calories. 100 to 200 calories can sometimes be all it takes. And everyone's different. So this is very much like a trial and error kind of deal. You know, I don't want that to sound bad that like there can be errors, but there are. We just don't know how people's bodies are going to respond. But typically I can cut like 150 calories and that will get things moving again for another couple of weeks and again until we see another stall. Okay. So those are like basically the 2 top questions I would say that happen. Question number 3, do I have to add in cardio? Short answer is no. Who wants to get on to me about it? You do not have to add in cardio. A lot of times with clients, I will add in more intentional movement, meaning we're going to increase their non-exercise activity time, which is their NEAT. Your total daily energy expenditure, meaning all of the calories that you burn in a day, are not just your exercise calories. Your body has a basal metabolic rate, which is essentially what your body is utilizing to keep you alive every single day. You've got your exercise time, which is actually very small, right? Maybe 45 minutes to an hour and a half each day, and probably not every day. You've got your non-exercise activity time, which is your NEAT. And then you've also got the thermogenic effect of food, which is essentially that it actually takes energy to break down food in your body, right? So out of those 4 things, the one thing that we can increase a lot without, again, negative biofeedback is increasing that NEAT, that non-exercise time. So that means increasing your steps. Very, very easy to say, let's go for an additional 20-minute walk each day and allow that to be the goal. So, you know, usually I will add like 1,000 to 2,000 steps per day along with a calorie cut to create that deficit to be what we need it to be and see some movement. A lot of people don't really like doing cardio. Cardio is great for you. If you enjoy doing it, do it. I like to do a little bit more cardio. I also know my body, so I prefer to utilize some cardio versus pushing my steps up to like 11 or 12K. You can do a combination of both. It's all also personal preference of what are you going to adhere to. Okay, let's make that very clear. If you are not going to get to 10K steps versus the 8K you normally do, it doesn't help if you set your step goal at 10. If you would rather do 8,000 steps a day and then do 20 minutes on the bike every single day, maybe you have an exercise bike at home or you go to the gym pretty much every single day or whatever, you're fine with going to the gym every single day, then you can utilize that. So you don't have to do cardio, but you do want to increase your exercise time in some capacity. We don't need to be like lifting more, but we do need to be increasing our caloric burn in some way. So that can come from actual structured cardio. It doesn't have to be HIIT. It doesn't all have to be high intensity work. You can do intervals, you can do steady state, you know, there's 15 million ways to skin a cat. But you don't have to do cardio. You can just work on increasing your intentional movement every single day. Okay, so that's question number 3. Question number 4, I would say, is when do we stop dieting? This is one that I think is hard, more mentally than physically for people. There's a lot of people out there who will stay in that cut as long as they can if they haven't gotten to the results that they want to get to. the first thing I'm going to say is that we won't always get to the end result of what you want in just one cut, okay? We don't want calories to be super low for a long time. We don't really want calories to be super low in general if we can help it, but we don't want to see you at like 1,600 calories for 6 months. That doesn't make sense to do. It's not good for your body. Again, you'll see negative biofeedback start to happen. So if you're starting to see biofeedback suffer, like I mentioned, hair, skin, and nails basically are a good sign of that. Like if your hair stops growing, if it's brittle, if your nails are breaking and brittle, that's a negative sign. If you are hungry all the time and it's making you angry, or you know, you're not getting along with people often because you're hungry, probably not a good sign. If you are having brain fog and having a hard time getting through your work for the day, if your energy is suffering really bad in workouts, yes, we typically see some strength declines, but you should still be able to get through a 45-minute workout regularly, right? So we want to look at biofeedback to decide if it's the right time. You can also just say, hey, I don't feel like dieting anymore. You don't have to do that, and you can start to bring your calories back up. There is no specific amount of time it has to be for it to say it's a cut. Some people will do like a 6 to 8 week really quick cut, just to, you know, slim down for something, right? You can also do a longer cut, do a couple months, you know, 3 to 4. Sometimes people want to go like 5 or 6, because if their calories are super high, the first month or 2 maybe wasn't really feeling like a cut. But we really want to gauge that off of biofeedback and individual needs, right? So you have to listen to your body. And this is one of the biggest things, like listen to what your body is telling you. Do not stay in a cut just because you haven't hit that weight goal yet, okay? You are able to go into a cut again, right? But we don't want to live our life out of a Tupperware and doing cardio and being in the sauna every day, things like that. So I think it's important to say we can do a cut, come out of it, like reverse your calories back up to some maintenance calories where you can maintain at eating a good amount, and your biofeedback is very much so improved. You're doing great in the gym, you're sleeping well, good energy, all that, and hang out there for as long as you want, right? I typically tell people I would like for you to be in a up to those higher calories, maintaining in those higher calories for a good bit of time before we go into another cut. 8, 10, 12 weeks, you know, 3 months out of a cut before going into another one, I think is a safe bet, at least minimally. Now, if you have been in super low calories for a very long time, something we often say is however long you were in that low of a deficit is how long you need to spend out of a deficit. That's scary for a lot of people, but it is incredibly helpful for your body to feel good, be fueled enough to put on muscle mass. That's really a lot of times where you see a lot of body composition change too, is in that reverse and maintenance phase where you can actually put that fuel to good use to build some muscle mass. And let yourself enjoy life a little bit too. Like, we don't need to be living life in a deficit. So I don't want this to be super, super long. So that's where I'm going to end it for today, kind of like your top 4 questions. If you have other questions about cutting and all of that, drop them below. Do not give me specifics. Don't say this is what I've been doing in XYZ. I am not your coach. If I am your coach, you can message me on the portal. We can talk about it, but we want to focus on kind of more broad questions if you have them. So feel free to drop those below. I'm happy to answer them or chat about them in another video if we get a bunch of questions. So if you liked this video, go ahead and give it a like, as well as hit that subscribe button so you can join me every time we have a video. Again, I post lots of fitness and nutrition goodies, as well as some lifestyle stuff, going to Disney and Universal and things like that, and just living life, because that's what we do here. So I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time.